Okay, we are recording and we're going live on YouTube. Baden, it's time for the show.
Hi, buddy. You coming up to say hi?
Okay, so welcome to our every Wednesday, hopefully every Wednesday, Miracles, Magic, and Coffee show with Ralph and Jen and Baden. And today, we're super excited to get something to you that we found by accident, and but we're so glad we found it. So I'm going to ask Jen to start a little bit with some stuff that we found way back, probably 2011 is when we first started to see it, and then it came in stages. But something that we think can help with your health, and just to let you know about our show, this is the Miracles, Magic, and Coffee show. The question is, how do you finally get over autoimmune conditions and anxiety conditions, even if you've already tried everything else? So we're going to be talking about all these things that we see and hope it helps you. So here we go. So yeah, so let us know what the show is about and what you see, Jen.
Yeah, so we've noticed both with your clients clinically and especially with our children, but even with your body too and mine. We have noticed a effect from EMFs, and when we would, limit them or take them out, we noticed improvements, and when we would put them back in, we would a lot of times see reactions start to build again.
So what's an EMF?
Electromagnetic frequency, and that you want some apple juice in just a minute. Do you want to explain that, and I'll get him some apple juice?
I'll get him apple juice.
Okay, actually, I think we're out of apple juice.
Blueberry juice.
Blueberry juice. So yeah, it's frequencies that are emitted from things like cell phones and even from the wires in our walls. There's a little bit of frequency emitted from, pretty much anything with electricity. But we really noticed a big difference between EMFs emitted from like a cell phone because it's sending and receiving information. But there's something also about touch screens that seem to specifically irritate, especially Ben when he was little. And then we've limited his use of touch screens and cell phones so much that I'm not sure how much he's affected now. But yeah, we noticed a big reaction from him. So I think the first thing that we noticed that we didn't know what was going on at first was when he was really little, like a year old, he was obsessed with being in Ralph's office in our other house. And what I didn't realize is he was sitting right above a router, a Wi-Fi router. You want to do it yourself? Okay. And so he would sit on this desk and he loved looking at the phones and playing with the phones and studying the numbers. And I just thought he was really, really into it. But he would scream when I would take him out of the room. And he wasn't usually like that. He was usually a little more easygoing. Like he was very focused and kind of intense, but he wouldn't scream when you explained that we needed to end something, an activity, and we needed to move on. If you gave him a heads up, he would transition. But that he would really, really be almost inconsolably upset. And so in hindsight, looking back after we made the connection that it was something to do with EMFs, we look back and we're like, oh, it was almost like an addiction thing. It almost acts like an addiction. They almost get addicted, and it might be kind of like a little bit of a buzzy feeling or something. I'm not sure what it feels like for a little child, but I think we figured it out when we were traveling around in the summer, and we found that
I think it took longer than that.
Yeah, it was kind of like after.
So what happened was we were driving around for the summer looking for where to live, and Jen had the iPhone, so she was in the back with Ben and really close to Ben and nursing Ben while we traveled, even in kind of leaning over and all that. But she was always on Facebook and messaging, navigating, always with this iPhone on right by his head. And
I had no idea.
And so then we pulled into Bellingham, and we had a month in this one place that was really pretty, and I just wanted to rest. It had been so long of trying to figure out where to live and stuff, and it was like 5 months later, Halloween weekend of 2013. So so this was 2 years after Jen was saying that Ben was acting really inconsolable in the Wi-Fi
I guess
room.
a year after. Yeah.
And yeah, a year and a half, year, 11, 12, 13, almost 2 years. And because this was 2013.
Well, he was a year old at 12.
Yeah, but we were
in
traveling in
2012.
2013.
Which
So
is a year later.
so he so there we were in this room, and we were both really, really irritated, and we were waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and our bellies hurt, and we're like, what is going on? And so luckily we had a friend that said, go see this one hairdresser named Sabrina. And so we went, and it was so cool. She said, what do you do for a living? And I told her, and she goes, well, then I can ask you, what's up with your kidneys? And you got to get off of Wi-Fi, man. And so she could do this way of looking in someone's eyes, iridology, and see what was wrong with somebody. And she was picking up that I was really affected by Wi-Fi and cell phones. So we went back to that place we were staying at, and underneath the bed, we saw there was a Wi-Fi router thing that connected a lot of the electronics in the room right under our bed. So we ended up moving into our next place that we rented for 7 months, and we hardwired stuff, and we got rid of our iPhone. And that's when we started realizing, when we first realized, oh my goodness, there's a Wi-Fi cell phone problem. And I used to be somebody that loved all that stuff. I had an iPad, and all my printers and all my music was all hooked up to my computer, and all wireless through the house in San Diego. But we started seeing that that this was going on, and what happened with me was I couldn't even be in a room with that stuff. If we even just went in the co-op where everybody had their cell phones on, or a meeting with 20 people and there's all these cell phones on, I would feel really disoriented and buzzy and kind of like loopy and just not well, like I was gonna just like have an out-of-body experience. And so it took a while, and we actually found a practitioner that helped us clear it out of our body. And then we moved up by the mountain, and we had a very low Wi-Fi signal and no cell phone coverage, and we got detoxed from it so we could get back in the world. And now we limit our cell phone coverage, but that was how we started to find out basically all the stuff that we thought we had fixed: anxiety, irritability, belly pain, insomnia, all came roaring back. And so we have some answers of what we found that can help. And so maybe Jen can talk a little bit more about anything else with our path, or what you found, or anything else.
Well, I would say part of it was we had to learn to trust our instincts. Like, I wasn't really sold that it was Wi-Fi. And then I remember the phone call I was on. I took a phone call on the iPhone after we had kind of said, oh, it might be this, and we need to really limit it. And Ben totally had an inconsolable. It was almost like he would have an OCD type thing and be inconsolable for like a half an hour after either me talking on a cell phone near him, or especially touch screens. If he looked at, pictures on an iPad with a relative. I remember one time going out, and we were going to go into a camper to stay, and he hadn't even been looking that long, but because I think we got so overexposed for a while, he was super sensitive, and he was so upset with me that I was turning the doorknob the wrong way, and he could not explain to me how to do it better. And he was sobbing and inconsolable for like a half an hour. And so we were like, we don't totally understand all the mechanisms for why touchscreens seem to affect him more, or why this affects him so much, but we saw such a difference in, he never did that once we limited those things and did not allow them. He wouldn't have those meltdowns. And so we really learned to trust, because once we started seeing that connection, it was very consistent, and we just started trusting it and following it, even though we didn't have all the data, and we still don't, of why those things seem to affect him. But we've had that experience many times where maybe the information is going to catch up with us later, but we use our observation and really trust our instincts and follow those things, because it really made a huge difference for Ben.
Yeah, and then another thing that happened recently, I went to San Diego, which is a 5G city, from what I understand. LA, San Diego, Indianapolis, there's a few of them now. And what I noticed was my friends were all talking about sleep, and they were having all these problems sleeping. They were just talking about how their night's sleep went. Like, oh, I slept pretty good tonight, or I didn't sleep good. And these are people I've known for years, and they used to not talk about sleep. And they're adjusting their wine intake at night, and some of them are taking edibles to like try to sleep. And I wasn't sleeping. I was like waking up at 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, wide awake, and then during the day, all buzzed out when I took my class. And I'm like, oh my goodness, people are not sleeping. And so that might be something to look at. If you're not sleeping, you might want to think, have you always been someone that doesn't sleep well, or is this new? And there's things that we found that can help. Like I have clients that were doing a lot of these things called qigong movements that help. But there's ways to minimize it, even if you're in a city. So hopefully we can talk about that a little bit. But yeah, so because we want to live in the modern world, but how do you do it? So yeah, maybe you can tell a little bit about when Kate came over and looked at our stuff.
Oh yeah, it was awesome. We have a local woman who has a meter that can read. It can't pick up 5G yet, but it can read many of the different EMF frequencies that are in our environment. And she was able to look, the smart meters that they've started installing for the electric meters on your house. Most of those have been converted to smart meters, and those have a pretty strong EMF because they're always talking, they're always sending information back and forth, sending and receiving. And so, or I think mostly sending, but outside our house, there was like a 6-foot perimeter, like the EMFs were high for 6 feet out from this thing. But it's amazing, these walls in this particular house, I don't know if it's the older construction, right on the other side of the wall to it, thankfully, the readings are pretty much baseline. So she was able to we turned on the Wi-Fi, because occasionally we need to turn on the Wi-Fi for a computer. And we could see, if you're in the kitchen, if you're in this other room, if you're on the couch, how much is that affecting you? Because we did see, our observation had told us that it did seem like proximity made a big difference. Like if Ben was seeing a screen, again, especially a touch screen, within a few feet of him, it seemed to make a big difference and possibly cause a reaction. But if it was across the room or maybe 5 feet away, it didn't seem to have as much of a impact on him. So this meter was able to measure that for this house, and we were able to see kind of what our safest zones were. If we did, again, need to have Wi-Fi on for a little bit, where we could be in the house, where we could have the kids in the house and not be as affected by those signals. And it was good to know too that, our neighbor's Wi-Fi isn't bombarding our house. It seems to be pretty good at holding out the penetration. Again, we don't know if it's the older construction, but oh yeah, there's also this Mylar that she gave us, and that you can put over different electric things. We did an experiment with Ben's remote control cars because we noticed those affecting him at one point. And he's so good, he's awesome. He really limited, we would say you can do your remote controls for one minute, because he started having meltdowns at night if he would do his remote controls for a long time. So, which makes sense, they're sending out a signal, there's an EMF there. And so we tested it, and he's holding something right next to his head. We tested it, and it did have a reading. And then we put the Mylar over his hand, and it's not as fun to play with, but it really reduced the amount of EMFs that were coming off of his transmitters. So that's pretty cool. This right here is a shielded cable. I always forget, I always have to read the cable again to find out. I think it's a Cat 5. No, this one's a Cat 6A. But you want to look for a shielded cord. I'll double check that because I thought they were Cat 5s too. They were the best. But you want a shielded cord just to be safe. And then this is the thing we use to connect it to our newer Mac computers, because they just have the one little insertion here. But this makes it so you can hardwire your computer, which makes a really big difference. When we were doing the readings, it is amazing how intense it is. And again, distance makes a big difference. Like a foot from the computer versus 3 feet from the computer was a big difference. But when you have that Wi-Fi on and you're doing, Skype or something like that, there are big spikes in the EMFs that just are zapping, kind of zapping your body. So, and I think I've read somewhere that little children are especially affected because of the way that their brains are, and I think there's some research out there that talks about it possibly opening up the blood-brain barrier a little bit, and that might allow things to get into the brain that usually wouldn't. Those are some of the theories out there as to why EMFs might affect us, but I'm not sure all the science has really been done on that. Has all the science ever been done on anything? But yeah, it was fascinating. I mean, even Ralph had back pain at one point. We had been away the whole summer. This was fascinating. We'd been away the whole summer, traveling around, doing a lot of camping, and out in nature a lot. And we came back to San Diego for like 2 weeks to celebrate Ben's birthday and kind of as a reset. And we needed to leave again because we had rented out our house as an Airbnb. And so we went camping for a weekend, and we had been in our house for 2 weeks, not knowing that there was Wi-Fi, like turning on all our Wi-Fi stuff, being totally immersed again. And on this, when we left to go on the camping trip, Ralph had really bad back pain where he like could not help with anything. He just needed to lay on the ground. And that was just not Ralph. Like, he's never been one to have back pain, and he hadn't lifted anything. Nothing had happened that we could see that would have given him that back pain. But now it makes sense in retrospect once Sabrina had pointed out, hey, you have something going on with your kidneys. Kidneys are in that area where if they are not feeling good, it can give you back pain. And we think that's what happened to him, that he had been detoxing and then he got immersed again. And that's the way his body reacted, is his muscles just tightened down around those kidneys to try to protect them. So it's just interesting to me how many different symptoms have been related to Wi-Fi for us. And but the good news is you can do a lot to minimize your exposure and to detox, and then you're much less affected by it. So,
and the other thing we did, we met somebody, another Kate in town, who was doing some really cool qigong, and so she had a teacher named Heidi, and I can find that information. It was from a place called Kulshan with a K, Medical Intuitive Healing, who does a lot of really cool stuff around town. Very interesting woman and method of qigong. And they did qigong healing on me, and on us, and that helped a lot.
It really got us over a hump. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we moved out to the mountain, and that helped. And when I went to San Diego and couldn't sleep and came back really buzzed out, what I did was I also did this another time. I had the cell phone. I was at a Facebook Live for 40 minutes after the Vax 2 movie a few weeks ago, and I was holding the cell phone for 40 minutes, and I was so loopy on the way home. So what I did was the next day I went outside and did my qigong with my feet barefoot on the grass, looking at the sun. And our friend Annie Drew told us about looking at the sun first thing in the morning. And we've known about putting our feet on the earth too. And that's a really good way just to get a lot of grounding and get that stuff out of your body. So feet on the earth, being outside with natural light, being outside with natural light, especially in the morning, turning off a lot of the computer screens at night, having a time when you just turn them off, and definitely hardwiring the computers. And it might seem like a lot of trouble, but it wasn't that many years ago that nobody had Wi-Fi or cell phone kind of stuff like that. And I see clients over the internet and also in person. And I had some clients for over the years where the one thing that stopped their severe problems, there were some severe gastrointestinal problems, very scary stuff.
With bleeding and everything.
Mm-hmm. And the medical system wasn't helping, and the diet stuff was only helping minimally, and our energy healing was helping just minimally. It was when we found out that they were going to sleep at night with their cell phone by their bed, listening to podcasts, and they were using it to wake up in the morning, and it was like on their chest when they were walking around. When we got them to turn all that off and hardwire the computers, all that ulcerative colitis stuff went away. So there's a lot of reasons to check in on this for yourself. And it's one thing that we look for with clients now, like what's your cell phone usage and your Wi-Fi, and how close are you to cell phone towers? When we would visit our friend in Vancouver, he had a cell phone tower on the roof of his condo complex, and he was way down on the first floor, but we would wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and couldn't sleep, and just felt kind of buzzed, tired when we were there. So you just want to look at that, and that could be a missing link why you're not healing, if that's going on. Yeah, so let's see, what anything else? So if you want any of the information about people that we've used here in Bellingham, there's a woman, Katie Lawson. You can find her information from us. Just email us if you're local. If you're in your own area, you can look for people that have meters, and you can check and see, how you're doing. We're in a very good house next to a big mountain that's shielded, and so our place feels great. And we live in a small city that doesn't have 5G, and so but you can get data on that, and there's different healers that can help you with it. Energy healers like my stuff at a distance can help, and people in your town, there's probably some acupuncturists or qigong people that can help. But even getting good healing work done, it's good to turn off where the problem is coming from. Like, if you're going to lots of different healers and taking lots of supplements and you're still having lots of problems, it could be really useful just to turn off the Wi-Fi and cell phones and not put the bad stuff in your body. So that's our hope for today. And we'll be bringing up some people. We're going to be interviewing a lot of people. We're lining them all up, but we wanted to get some basic stuff out that we found. So you can look through some of these older shows and see some of the stuff we've been using. We've been talking about things in nutrition and other stuff, and we'll see when we start bringing in some of the other people. But let us know what you need and what you're dealing with. And yeah, if it can happen, it can unhappen, and you can get your health back. So anything else you want to say about EMFs or Wi-Fi or cell phones? Or
I think
that's pretty good. I think that's pretty good. That's a short show, but okay. So we will see you all later. Let me see if there's anything on YouTube. Oh my goodness! I hope we're like live. I think we're just gonna have to like put this on later. It's just recording. Let's see if we're even on. Yeah, we haven't been on live. So we're gonna go post this, and we will see you all later. All right, bye now.